Bill here with the Metals Minute. Today is Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022. Well, we have gold leading the way. Gold is up 1 week. It's up over the last year, and it's up year to date. So that puts gold in the leading category among the metals and also other asset classes. And year to date, even silver and platinum are down a little bit, but even those metals are higher than most every other asset class year to date. So the metals are leading, and gold is leading the metals. So that's where we are as of today. And we have some things going on in the world economy that may further impact gold. Russia has stated that they are working with the BRICS nations to develop an alternative reserve currency based on a basket of alternative assets, which means currencies of resource developing nations and currencies that normally are not considered world reserve currencies, such as from the BRICS nations. But they're developing that, and there's also talk of gold being one of the assets. The details haven't been provided yet, so this is something we definitely want to keep an eye on. I know similar things have been talked about by the West, creating a new basket or changing the mix of the basket for the reserve currency. So now perhaps the race is on. Who's going to do that first? The good thing to keep in mind is regardless of who does it, it should be beneficial for the holders of gold. And we see central banks around the world have been increasing their gold allocation, trying to secure their gold from other storage locations and bring it back to their own countries. And they've increased their portion of gold that they hold on their books. And so whoever gets to it first, it seems like that the central banks of the world and many nations that historically have not had much in terms of gold reserves are quickly trying to get themselves some. And so you and I can take a cue from that and continue on our path of developing sound money policies for our own individual families and put ourselves on the gold standard that seems to be inevitably coming our way. Meanwhile, we have an energy issue that is continuing to create problems in Europe, and I think there are lessons we can learn here in the United States so we don't make the same mistakes. But everyone wants to have clean, renewable energy. That's like a utopia where energy just comes to you. And they, in Germany, for example, they decided they wanted to do wind and solar. So they started shutting down, getting rid of nuclear. Well, then the wind and solar wasn't ready yet to take up all the needs. So suddenly last year and the year before, they had to ramp up Russian gas usage, natural gas, in order to provide the energy that they just gotten rid of prematurely. Well, then the bright idea comes to sanction Russia and not buy their gas. Well, guess what? Now they realize they don't have a way to produce power, and they're having to go to the old coal plants and try to get those fired back up before winter comes, because they won't have enough ways to heat themselves and provide the energy to keep their economies going and the lights turned on. So it just is like kabuki theater sometimes. And sadly, we see some of the same efforts being made here in the United States. And like I say, there's nothing wrong with clean energy. But, it would make more sense if we would develop the clean energy, get it up and running at a capacity that's able to meet needs on the massive scale that we want people to use, and then say, okay, here's some alternatives. Now let's begin transitioning over. But to just cut off oil and gas at the knees and say we're going wind and solar, when already people are being told that have electric vehicles, they're being limited on the number of days they can charge them or the number of hours because there's a power shortage already developing in the United States. They're projecting blackouts to occur, rolling blackouts at various places that typically don't have them here in the United States. So this is, hopefully we can learn from some of the mistakes that are being made in Europe concerning energy, and let's get the alternatives developed fully and up and running before we kick people off of things that have been working for the last 100 years. So that's just my opinion. Don't hold anyone else accountable for it. But meanwhile, precious metals are a storage of energy. They're not only a store of value, but they're a storage of energy. So as energy prices rise, that puts a floor that's rising underneath as support for precious metals prices. It's a very energy intensive business to get gold and silver, platinum and palladium out of the ground and refined. So that fine gold, that fine silver that you have in your vault or that you store at the Texas Bullion Depository, not only stores value, but it stores the energy that it takes to get that metal refined and out of the ground. And no matter what happens to energy prices, when you have physical gold in your account or in your possession, you have insulation against future energy increases, as well as just general cost of living. Recession, they're trying now to change that definition so they can soften the idea that we're going into recession now. They've done the same thing with inflation through the years. Inflation, they've changed the definition to try to keep saying it's low. But now it's even blowing out their new definition. It's up over 8%. Keep in mind how it used to be defined. It's over 15% now. So even if inflation comes down, let's say it drops to 5%, inflation can be down, and that's the headlines we'll probably see. Inflation is down. But that still means prices are continuing to rise. And even if inflation drops to 0%, what that means is the prices are locked in at a lot higher level than they were the year before. Only if we see a negative number on inflation will prices actually be dropping. So keep that in mind, and that's an important reason to have physical silver and gold in your portfolio. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again on Friday. God bless.